let's see what we can do about fixing everything here. Okay. All right, so I am going to try and make a bunny utilizing basically the same pattern, just a few very small adjustments, different tail, different ears. I've had people asking about bunnies for a little while now, so I actually have an order for one, and I'm going to give it a try. We're going to actually start off by making a little quick comparisons. Got all kinds of stuff in my way here. I'll use these colors for it. So here's my ear. This currently gives me about this, so I think that's a good range to use. So I'm going to go ahead and start by drawing the base of my ear here, make it just a tiny bit wider. This is, let's see, how long we got this? If I made a bunny ear, a little bit longer, I think that'd be good. So maybe about here. All right, again, I'm going to be making trying to turn my little mouse design into a bunny design. I'm going to start simple. The thing is that without making these things a few times, I don't know what's going to work. There's a very high possibility I'm going to have to come up with a whole new design, because on top of that, the tail, or the back feet, might need to be bigger. Might give it some thighs. Which will be a little bit of a process to figure out. I can invite people to co-host. I don't know what any of that means. I don't know what co-hosting and stuff means, so I'm just kind of rolling with what I can. I think this is going to make my ear a little bit too small, since I lose about 1/4 of an inch. Maybe less. So let's see what we get when we make an ear out of this size. A lot of times what I will do, dang it, I'm using the wrong scissors. That's not cool. Fabric scissors on paper. At least I didn't screw it up yet. All right, so a lot of times what will wind up happening is I'll have to make each thing that I make like good 5 times minimum. But what I'm hoping to do is just adopt a little bit of changes onto my mouse. Since I've already got most of my stuff cut up. So we're going to do a single ear. Kind of see how it works out whenever I cut it up. If anybody's stopping by, feel free to say anything. I'm doing my best to keep an eye out. Let me know what you need me to do. I make my own plushes. And because I make my own plushes, I also make my own designs. Everything I do is pretty much self-taught, which in itself just means that everybody else can learn the same things. But it also means I go through a whole lot of steps to figure each and everything that I do out. I don't know how much of the stuff that I try to figure out is common knowledge for people who've been taught how to sew and how to make things. So if you see me doing something that seems weird, like for example, the other day, somebody asked me why I don't do a zigzag stitch across my pieces. And when I sew this small, I don't have room to make a zigzag unless I do it on a second run. And the reason is because the zigzag puts it at the center of the foot, and I wind up just losing everything, not getting straight lines. It becomes super aggravating. So for here, I am just doing a test ear. I don't know if anybody's doing anything today. I hope somebody's at least entertained in some small way by what's going on. Everything seems to suck out there, so I'm just trucking on. What I do is currently have been commissioned to make a whole bunch of mice. But there's also been some people interested in some bunnies. So my idea is if I can adjust this mouse to look like a bunny, maybe change the ears, bring them to the top, change the tail, that might be enough to look like a really cute bunny. All right, now when I do my stitches, I do not do a zigzag. At this size, if I were to have to center this to do a zigzag, I would not be able to get a straight line because it's going right down the center. And I can't make it bigger because what winds up happening is that everything binds up a little bit differently and moves differently. So I'm doing some quick stitches to see if I can make this bunny ear look right. Something quick, easy, as an adjustment, but not too different from what I already do. Now, the truth is that this mouse is not really a difficult pattern. You make it bigger and it's really easy. But sewing this small, it took me a lot of practice to get everything to move correctly. I have a feeling that other people who have been sewing for a long time would have zero problems with it. One of the things about that is I'm going to be making a pattern very soon, trying to turn this mouse into a bunny today. And what's going to happen is if I can get this working, I can actually make that part of the pattern, kind of adjustments, little versatility. As it already stands, my mice are set up so that they can be worn. You can actually put a hair clip right there or a clothespin. I'll show you. I've actually got some right here. There you go. Just a very simple pin. Slide it in. Put that through your hair, and you can wear this. I love to have them a little bit more versatile. Now, if I can adjust the pattern just a little bit, it can actually work to make bunnies. So that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm trying to see if I can turn this just a little bit of a change so that I can make tiny little wearable bunnies as well. Now, as I'm kind of going through this, I am open to anybody sending me any kind of messages. I do take custom orders. This very much Beetlejuice looking mouse was not even meant to be a Beetlejuice. What it actually is somebody just liked those colors and I decided that I had to set it up that way. All right, so bunny ears. Oh, that's way too big. That's just going to look goofy. How about if I pinch the ends in? Yeah, that'll make a difference. If I pinch the ends, I can actually make it look a little bit better there. And the downside is, since this is just a test, I'm kind of having to sew the entire rest of the bunny together. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to build the head. I already cut everything out. So I'm just going to build the head the same way that I've got the mouse heads built. Now, usually when I sew the head, I actually have the ears done first, which is relevant because what I do is I use the ears that I've previously sewn as a handle. So right now I'm going to have to pull on the thread and hope that it doesn't snap on me. There we go. This small, and with the fuzz on this material, it winds up binding up a lot. And because of that, and because of how close to the edge I am, I usually have some extra things that I put together so that I can use them to grip instead of holding the thread itself. So today is going to be a little bit different because of stuff like that. Where did I? Oh, there it is. For the head, I tend to sew back to front and then from nose to back. That way, when everything stretches, because this fabric, like most fabrics, does have a little bit of a stretch to it, it stays in the same shape that I need. If I sew back to front both times, sometimes it used to stretch weirdly on me. And then it would just not sit even and look kind of awkward. There we go. All right, today, as I've said, I'm turning this mouse pattern, let me get this out of the way, this is stopping me from sitting up, this mouse pattern into a bunny. Shouldn't be too many changes, but there's a possibility that when I'm done it won't look right and I'm going to have to redesign the whole body. All part of the whole process. Next time I'm live, I hope to be making a snake. I've got a couple of people that have ordered some snakes. Again, a lot of these things, what's funny is that since I put the patterns together myself, they're not particularly difficult. Maybe other people would be more advanced and have all these little twists and turns that I don't have. but I like it to look as nice as I can and as simple as I can. All right, so let's see what this ear will look like. I'm not sewing it on yet because I'm not sure if this is going to fit my needs. I think it's a little bit too wide. And because of that, I'm trying to see what happens if I fold both ends in. That does create a whole lot of material right here. So that's going to be a lot for the needle to get through. It can definitely do it, but it's also very likely to get caught up. And that is its own kind of problem. But I don't know if that looks bad or not. Let's see what happens if I just fold it in half. Let's say from the inside. Yeah, that looks good too. Okay, so I can actually, that's pretty much the same thing I do here. With the mouse ear, I do fold it over. So if it was folded over and put onto the head, I think that that would actually fit. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is make 2 more pieces. I've already got my little pattern drawn up. And when I put it together this time, I may find out that I just don't want it to be that wide. Making sure I got the same material here. Okay, I like to have the fuzz going up so that you can stroke this way along the ear. Now, I'm sure that I've seen people wonder why I don't use chalk or some of the fabric pencils. The thing is, the inside of this material is almost as fuzzy as the outside. So what winds up happening is it doesn't stick. It just peels right off. And I'm using very little lines with the black ink, which, again, I would prefer not to use, but I can't get it to stay otherwise. All right, I think I went a long ways with this ear. Yep, I did. Okay. Trying to make sure. I'm going to have to do a little bit of adjusting on the ear so that it has a little bit of definition on the shape. That way I can have an inside and an outside and maybe give it a little bit of an angle. Okay. Just kind of tossing all my fabric to the side as I go. So I don't know exactly what's going on with lies. I'm trying to learn how to do all this, but there's so much to learn. And TikTok does not seem to give me a whole heck of a lot of information. So basically, I'm hoping to try to turn this into something that will be helpful and useful and fun to watch. Of course, the goal is to find a way to be profitable doing my own art stuff. But at the very least, if I can find a way to spread the word to say, hey, look, this is what I make. I can do more if you want. So please do follow. Send me some messages. If you're interested in something, let me know. The good news is that I actually enjoy helping people. So if you decide that you have some questions, I will do my best to answer. I don't know what to expect from that, but it can't hurt to offer to help, right? A couple back stitches. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use this ear as a handle. I had mentioned that a minute ago. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fold one side over. I'm going to do one ear in, but I want to do it really close to the top. Normally I would have, for the mouse, I have them on the side of the ears, the head. But of course a bunny does have it on the top. And I think it'll definitely look cuter that way. So, take the back of my head. This fuzz gets absolutely everywhere. Still need chicken mouse. A little pumpkin mouse would be cute. I actually have some Halloween material with pumpkins on it. I will try and add that to my list. Send me a message directly. If you send me a direct message, I will add that to my list of projects that I do when I go live. That way, even if you can't get it, you can see what it would look like and it'd be a lot of fun. And then you can see the things that you suggested being made. I've got a flash goal. What does that even mean? Flash goal. 3 gifters send TikTok to your live in 15 minutes. Okay, so basically it's asking people to send me stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm okay if you don't send me something, but if you can help me out, great, fun. I don't even know what it means. Truth be told, I don't want anybody to waste their time, their money on anything. So if you don't know, you're not interested, don't even feel any kind of bad way about it. Now you see, I'm actually using, you probably can't see, so I'm going to tilt this up just a little bit. While I'm sewing, I have the ear that I just previously sewed right here. I'm using that as a handle to pull this current stitch through. And the reason for that is because there's so much that I'm actually sewing through. I'm sewing through like 3 or 4 layers because of how I've got it turned inside out and folded in half. Let me go ahead and fix this ear real quick. Again, if anybody's stepping in, you're curious. Oh, tips for cutting Minky. Use an X-Acto knife and slice the fur so you don't cut the Minky hair. I actually started like, okay. When I do thicker hair, I fold it back so I can do that. But that X-Acto knife is a brilliant idea. I've also used scissors to cut really close into it. The good thing is with the Minky as it is, when I cut it just a little bit of distance, yes, it gets caught up in the stitch, but I can actually take a needle and pull that little bit out. So I've gotten pretty good at cutting the material without losing too much of my fur. Here, you can actually see just a little bit better right here. There's that fur that's caught in the stitch. Now, if I need more fur, then I definitely have to cut it totally differently. And I've got my fur so it's going up so you can pet the ear upwards. But thank you for the advice. I have not even thought to use an X-Acto knife for anything like that. So that's a pretty brilliant idea. Okay, I may have put the ear just a little bit too much to the center, but that's okay. The second ear will just have to have an angle, which will give it a little bit of character, right? Okay, so let's tuck this all in. See if I can get the ears about even. I don't want it folded in half because I don't want it to do this. I want to like pull the corner inwards. And I'm just going to go ahead and put it pretty close to the same distance from the crease here. I think that'll hold. Even if it's not perfectly aligned, my theory is that the different positions just give them different characters to them. Just got to see if this will even work at all. All right, I'm going to pull my thread out. I make fursuit stuff and it gets everywhere regardless, but slicing the back helps a lot. That makes sense, especially on a big project like that. And the bigger furs, like I've used some really fuzzy stuff, and because I never thought to use an X-Acto knife on it, I was basically just trying to cut between the fur. I would have to while it was coming up, I would dig underneath and then cut and then pull it all back and dig underneath and cut. So that's a brilliant idea. I really appreciate that. I made somebody a cloak, kind of like a fur cloak with, actually it was faux leather. And then I used fur for the shoulders. And that X-Acto knife tip would have been very helpful. All right, let's see how this took shape. Again, working so small is the only reason I don't use a zigzag stitch. What winds up happening is if I were to try and zigzag this, the boot would have it on the outside and I would wind up getting very crooked lines. If I need to stitch it up again, I can actually zigzag it now and reinforce the stitch, but that's not always something that's needed, especially at this size. Now, at bigger projects, I would definitely use a zigzag stitch with the excess material on the side. Oops, see, it just got bound up just a little bit, so I got to try and pull the thread to give it just a little bit. There we go. And then I also do some silk materials with these mice, which, by the way, is super cute and soft. Make a mouse with like a super soft, silky inside. For those kinds of materials, I definitely go back over and do a second zigzag stitch that keeps it from unraveling. All right, so let's see, I've got the ears in. I'm going to go ahead and sew underneath the jaw. This will help me maintain its shape. Let me get a pin here, block the entire camera. Ow! And stab myself in the thumb. Always fun. Okay, now this is another part that I would use a handle on. For example, the ears or the body. And in fact, what I'm going to go ahead and do is show you as an example what I mean. So I've already cut the body for this rabbit. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is do a couple quick stitches. This would be the edge of where I would stitch it closed. I actually stop right there. One of the things I do with my little plushes is I attach a little jump ring. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Grumpy Carno. I will make one of those sometime very soon. I am trying to do a bunch of the requested items with no responsibility or no request for anything. So at the very least, you can see it, which I think will be fun. All right, so I'm putting this jump ring between stitches on its back. The reason I do that is so that you can actually use it as a charm. See how it's got the stitch, the jump ring sticking out? It's just enough to where you can put a key ring into it, but also so small that you can hide it and you don't have to worry about it interfering if you decide you just want to squeeze and put them in your pocket. Oh, I'm going to make it, but I don't want you to feel like you are obligated because you did not order something. And I would love for you to see it and comment and tell me what I did wrong or right. All right. Oops, you can actually hear that it's slightly touched. So because the jump ring is so small, my stitches are just long enough where they go on both sides of it. Okay, I almost cut it off accidentally. The whole point was turning this into a handle. All right, I'm going to use this to feed the line through. Now, this part is so thick because I'm only getting the very edge. I don't know if you can tell, but there's an entire like quarter of an inch between the bottom of the boot and the base here. And the reason is because all this material over here has kept it from locking down. It will still do its job because I've still put the boot down. It's just that now I have to definitely feed it through so that it doesn't get locked up. And of course, a couple back stitches. All right, cut both pieces out. Oops, needle up. All right, now we get to see how it looks. I really think this is going to work for the head. My real question is whether or not the body will work. I think that it's close enough in body shape that it'll still be very cute without looking like I tried to put a rabbit head on a mouse. Oh, look, that's not too shabby. I think what I'm going to do, okay, so it gives me a little bit more space, so it even changes the shape of the head a little bit. So because I had more space to sew, I actually got more of an angle. My original design intended for the mice to have an angle very similar to this, but as I kind of adjusted, I really liked the rounded face for them. The ears may be big, but we will find out if we like that or not when I put the whole thing together. Got to make sure I don't lose my little piece of paper for the pattern. Cut some of the excess off here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and finish off the head. I'm going to give it some pink a pink nose. Just do some simple embroidery. You could use a couple stitches and pin one ear half full. I agree. Like, I can do like have the ear come down. I think that would look really cute that way. There's just enough range in here that I could even have them to the side. You know, for a sad bunny, or I don't know if I don't think that's a sad bunny. There's a word that I would use for that, but I can't picture what that word is. All right, let's go ahead and try. Now I have gotten way better at embroidering the noses. Look at this. You can't tell. You probably can't tell because of the dark green on the neon green, but it's becoming so much more the shape that I wanted. Because what I really want to do is make a triangle shaped nose. And then once I get good at that, I can make like star shapes and heart shapes. But again, this is all trial and error. Lop ear rabbits have floppy. Yeah, that I could actually put some weight maybe in them so they kind of bounce a little bit. Oops. But you know, I've never enjoyed a TikTok live more than I'm really glad. I'm very shocked, but also I'm very glad. Thank you so much, Polar Bee. I think I'm going to have to order bunny to go with my mice. I think you should, but that's a little bit me. I recently had an order. I made a strawberry bunny on live. Someone had requested it. They didn't order it. They requested it. And they wanted a strawberry bunny with galaxy print. Well, it turns out that they were in Hungary. Well, I tried to figure out how much it would cost, and I got an estimate of $40, charged them $40, and it turned out to be a $60 or $70 shipping. And I was completely bummed because I was not going to not send it to them. So now I'm doing a little bit of recovery. I will be honest. I'm trying to do my best to set this up where I'm able to be successful enough. Like a tiny magnet. Oh, on the ears for the weight. I could do something like that too. The good news is this little pouch right here, which let me show you again for anybody that's just now showing up. They have a little loop. This little loop is meant so that you can wear it. Oh, there we go. You can wear it as a clothespin or a hairpin, depending on what you want to use, and you could even put a magnet into it. And that's not to forget that there's also the loop on the back so that you can wear it as a charm. All right, let's see what we can do. I've got my pink. I make 4 lines of thread, so I fold it twice. Now, forgive me, this is probably going to be one of the most boring parts to watch, and that's just because all I'm really doing is stitching. And since I'm not a professional, it doesn't come together particularly fast or well. I literally have been learning how to do this on the fly. So what my intention is to make a triangle-shaped nose. Oops, don't let it get knotted up. I've had that happen, and that is so aggravating. All right, pulls even. There we go. Now I'm just going to basically stitch in a triangle pattern, go in and then come out where that one went in. There we go. Keep this tight. I have no idea what co-hosting is, but let's see what it is. Hello. What does co-hosting do? Never done it. Maybe it's one of those goals that we're supposed to do. All right, so what I want to do is because of the thickness of this fuzz, I want to make sure that my thumb holds it down. Someone mentioned earlier that the fuzz needs to be cut separately, or the back needs to be cut separately from the fuzz. Well, in this case, I need to make sure the stitch pulls that fuzz. So using this kind of material, there's a lot of little things that you got to figure out as you go. Now, what happens if I don't do that is that the fuzz will start to get caught up inside. Here, we go ahead and fix something real quick. If you can see, I've got a little bit of the loop that's popped up. So what I do is I pull that loop itself. That tightens the string that it is. And there we go. Now I've got now it's laying evenly across. But basically, all these little things are things I've had to learn as I went. See, I'm holding the fuzz down so that the thread will be on the outside of it instead of getting caught up in it. And now I've got one more stitch across the top. This should give me my triangle shape. I'm actually going to come out, go into the top side here and out through my bottom stitch. Keep this flat because I don't want to stab myself. I'm using my round end pliers. Okay. Again, hold the fuzz down. And look at that. Look. See how close I am to getting a triangle now? I tried so many different things, but as long as I can keep the fuzz down and as long as I can keep that shape, it ends up working really well. Now, what I'll wind up doing is doing just a couple stitches where I kind of wrap it around the 3 ends of my triangle. This sort of reinforces that shape. This may be like the best one I've done so far. All right, now I want to tie it on the inside, so stab in through the nose, kind of get my needle out. The reason I'm doing this is because when I used to tie the knot on the outside, you could feel it. And I don't like there being like a rough point on there. Because what would happen is there would be a knot on the top. And when you rub your finger across it, it feels really hard. All right, now, just a little bit. I have to decide where I want to pull this out. I think I'm going to pull it on the top side of it. Just have to find it. Oh, a little bit over, a little bit more over. I know you can't see what I'm doing exactly because it's so far from the camera. I'm doing my best to keep that balanced. I just don't know what's going to wind up happening from moment to moment. Okay. I'm feeding out. I have to make sure I keep a loop of the thread in. So I've got it tied around my fingers. The reason I do that is because what's going to happen is now I'm going to feed it back in. I'm just going to go ahead and feed right in the center of the top. Trying my best not to stab myself in the hand. And from here, I have to find which end goes to the needle. There we go. I'm going to tie it off. Pull tight. All right, now it's tied so it won't come undone. A little bit of snip. Use my little professional chopstick tool. Hey, I got, that's a pretty good nose. I'm really happy with that. I am actually running a sale right now. First off, on my Etsy, there is a sale if you type in Lucky13 for the coupon. But yes, I am on Etsy. Same name, The Versatile Deviant. But you can also order directly through me. The thing is, Etsy takes roughly 30% of the sale, including the shipping. So what winds up happening is I have to charge more in order to get the bare minimum that I do. I don't run these at a massive profit. I don't make these and make 20 bucks each. I actually make about $15 per, and that's an estimated amount because what happens is I don't know exactly how much fuzz goes into it. The amount of time, it takes about 1.5 hours to 2 hours, depending on what's going on. I have made Sculpey pieces for skulls. I've put wizard costumes on them. There's a lot of things that can be done to personalize them. But at the same time, I know that this is not important. I know that these are not something that people are just going to have. All right, so I kind of trying to balance. So if you want to enter in Lucky 13 until the 13th, I will have a 20% off coupon. And I'm doing the same thing if you order directly through me. I appreciate that. I honestly think that having something like this is a good thing and it's its own type of importance, but there's the difference between food and plush. All right, so here is my head. I'm going to use my seam ripper to make the eyes. I'm going to go ahead and try and center those. Let's see. Now, this allows me to do just a tiny little tear. I used to use the tip of a knife, but what would happen is I would stab in and go way too far. and I've cut an entire side of a head, which was fixable, but it also made it look like there was a scar essentially, which cute for what wound up happening, but not for every time I want to do it. All right, here's my eyes. So that puts it right about here. This is a little different shaped than my mice. And what wound up happening is I was actually able to get the underjaw sewn together a little bit better. Okay, and for my eyes, what I use they're called safety eyes. They're little plastic eyes. Now, there are different size eyes. And in fact, I think I've got some of the other size eyes right here. The eyes that I like make it kind of big. And kind of big rounded eyes on here. And I think it looks really cute on this small scale. But as an example, you can get smaller eyes. Oh, I'm actually going to make some wire glasses. I want to turn one of these into a bookmark so that what winds up happening, he's got glasses and this loop will roll down and hang so that you can use it as a bookmark that literally sits on top of your book when you're not reading it. I think whimsy is a fantastic thing. I 100% agree, Gut. But I'm trying to be realistic because otherwise I get my heart all set on the idea of everybody else realizing how important things like this are and nobody realizing it. It makes me sad in my heart. So set expectations, that kind of thing. I just got sidetracked by fixing my loop here. Sorry about that. All right, there we go. Okay, excuse me. Okay. Now with that little hole that I put through, I will feed the back of the safety eye in. See, the point goes through. And there's these little plastic washers that go on. And there we go. This is what holds it in place. Now, if I can get it as tight as possible, that's great. Now, I have seen people use lighters or a hot spoon or something like that and melt this down. I'm sure that makes it very secure, but I'm not interested in breathing in the melted plastics. So I just snip the tip of it off. And the reason I do that is that way the point isn't there when someone tries to squeeze it. I am very big on making sure that these are all safe for anybody. And I hate the idea of there being a sharp point that somebody might accidentally squeeze hard enough to poke. It kind of scares me, in fact. Okay. You are just joining in, which I don't have any idea how fast people come in and go. I am adapting my previous tiny mouse design made so that you can wear it into a bunny. And there we go. Let's see. Now, I could probably sew that up a little bit more. What I will do the rest with this is hand stitch it. That way I don't have to worry too much about it coming apart. All right, so now that I've got that put together, I'm going to put my ear, I've got my drawings for my ears here. I'm going to make sure that I don't lose those. Put it into my little bag. Everything I make, I wind up putting into little Ziploc bags so that I don't wind up losing all the pieces to them. Before I got on, I actually made almost all the parts to this. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is sew this up. I got to make sure. Now, because this actually has a pattern on it, I like to make the little belly loop match the pattern. So I just want to make sure that I had that on the right side. Okay. I'm not too worried about back stitching on this, because what's going to happen is my two ends are actually going to overlap. All right, I have a little line on the back the butt of my belly piece, because that's where I'm going to start. I used to sew the entire body together and then try and keep it in place a little bit at a time. And I realized that I was just making too much work for myself. Oh, you know what? Before I actually put that on, let me go ahead and show you what I mean by lining up the belly. Just got to inside out this little loop real quick. It's so cute, you can't handle it, huh? With luck, this will actually work out where I don't have to make a new body for it, and it'll still look cute, and it'll still look original. But if not, what's going to wind up happening is I've already started planning on this, trying to figure out how I'm going to put a thigh here so that the bunny has its bigger leg. Oh yeah, I definitely could. Now, one of the downsides to using something like hot glue just long enough to secure it is that I have to go through the whole process of doing the hot glue. With bigger projects, it's definitely worth doing, but I have gotten enough practice with this where I can leave this open and not have to weigh as much. If you look on my account, there's a lot posted, but I've made bats, I've made possums, I've made snakes, mice, I've even made rats. Let's see, I made some giant snakes that I just recently posted some pictures of. Nope, there we go. Okay, so I keep the seam on the inside, so it can't be seen. I will line this up. Now, it's not so perfect that you can't tell it's there, but it definitely looks nice in comparison to just being like haphazardly or off center. But the idea being that it kind of shows that the effort of making sure it lines up. Unless you just do a tad bit of embroidery outline. Oh, you're talking about like a little line right here so that it looks like it sticks out? That's not a bad idea at all. In fact, when I get this done, depending what the body looks like, that might be my first thing to try. My other thought was to basically make not embroidery, but like applique, or the way that I stitch the head on is kind of a zigzag stitch. Oops, see, that's not quite lined up like I want it to be. Let's just go ahead and put this in here. I don't like to do that on the inside because it's going to get tangled up and lost. But if I do it far enough over, I can actually fold this in the middle of my sewing to get it out. But my first thought was to basically just attach a leg, kind of like I normally would with a other type, totally different type of big plush. All right, now for the legs, I have to make sure that the pin ball does not get in the way of the sewing machine. So I have to start here and leave this so I can pull this out. I will do the same thing on this foot and the next foot, each one being angled so they don't get in the way of the previous or earlier stitching. But the last one I have to do a little bit differently. And that's because if I did the same thing, then the last need pin will get in the way of the first stitch. So what I wind up having to do is almost the exact opposite and put it on this end. When I get to this side, I will just pull that needle out so that it does not get in the way of closing. All right. I do my best to make this look as easy as I can right here, but I assure you, it took a lot of practice. So if you wind up buying my pattern, which I should have up soon, I just have to draw up all the details. Do not become frustrated at how aggravating this part seems. This is one of those things that after you figure out the details, like your hand gets used to moving, it becomes so much easier. And there's a very high possibility that people with experience will know exactly what it is. Is it bad? I want the pattern to make a massive one. I've actually made a big one. It was about this big. I just recently, there's in my posting as well. And my plan is to make that pattern so that you can actually print it out at larger sizes. Because all I wound up doing was literally taking this exact same pattern, taking it to like a Staples, and having them blow it up 500 times. Okay, now I'm going to pull that underneath one out since I've got my loop set. And start sewing across. I'm going to slide this needle out just a little bit. have to sew very close to the ends of the legs. And because of that, I have to keep sure that, see, when I turn it right here, this is actually binding up. I'm not sure how much you can see. Sometimes on my lives, I will be zoomed in on the sewing itself. So if you ever need some kind of help with that, let me know. I've got some saved lives, and I can do some other lessons and do future ones that show all these little close-up details while sewing. Right now, I'm not moving the camera around as much. So if there's something you want to see, then kind of let me know. I'll do my best to keep an eye out. 1 foot tall. The one I made was maybe 7 inches. I don't think it was quite a foot, but it was a pretty nice size one. But yes, my intention is to make the pattern, and you can print it out at whatever size or project it. If you're one of those people that has a projector, so that you can actually just trace it that way, because I would hate to have to print out a piece of paper that's for a gigantic mouse. All right. Now, I mentioned earlier that this will get in the way, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. I will actually keep it pinched by pressing it down. I like to end on a downward stitch so that I can slide everything over without having to worry about it running away on me. But that doesn't always work out. So let me see if I can move this around just a little bit. There we go. Right along the edge of the leg. Again, when I turn, it's so close to that edge that I have to get it unstuck. So I just use another needle to kind of slide it out. Otherwise, what will happen is you'll sit there and sew and nothing will move. It'll just bind up and knot up. All right, now cut this loose. I only have a couple more stitches to do here. All right, now what I do is I will take my chopstick. The fur options, as in like what colors I have of this minky material, or are you talking about the idea of when you make it huge using some of the thicker furs, like, you know, the fake wolf fur and stuff like that? All right, so right here, it's really too close to the edge. In fact, see, I'm going right through it. I check because I'm already aware that being so small and so close to the edge, that one layer may look like it's sewn on, but the other layer did not make it. So, a little bit of quick stitching. Just enough to close that up. I think it'd be funny to make a gigantic mouse and then give it wolf fur and call it like a weremouse. Your next fantasy character for D&D night. Weremouse. Okay, now, when I fold this out, push the insides out, these parts are going to get really close to the edge. Before I cut that, though, I'm going to go ahead and add my tail. Oh, you know what? I almost completely forgot. I am not doing a mouse. I'm going to be doing a totally different type of tail here. So let's go ahead and just close this up. I'm so used to making these one way that I forgot that I'm actually doing something brand new with it. And I'll have to show you that whole step separately. Basically, I make these little palms for my clown mice. And I'm going to use that to make the tail here. All right, so now that I've already established the rest of it's all put together, I'm going to cut the little bit of excess off the feet so that they don't knot up. Now, if you don't want to do this, and that makes sense, when you inside it out, what you'll want to do is just take the bottom of your scissors and hammer it down. When you get a knot in the material like that, if you just hammer it like that, it'll flatten it out quite a bit. I like it to feel a little bit softer. Now, the downside is that because I'm cutting it so close to the edge, the stitch is extremely close to the edge. And what that could mean is if you are not careful, it can actually stab right through when you're done. All right, let me make sure that I didn't miss a stitch somewhere. I thought I just saw something. Looks like it's good. Okay, it was right there that I thought I saw a spot, but it is not. All right, let's go ahead, inside this out. Again, this is the part that I was talking about where if you don't trim the ends of the feet, you'll wind up with a little knot. But at the same time, it has that option of just hammering it down if you decide you want to. All right. Teeny tiny little feet. Relatively speaking, this is a pretty simple design. The only real difference is trying to figure it out at this small size. Once I figured that out, a lot of it became easier. And then it became a case of the order. Like, for example, when I used to sew the entire back and then try and sew all this in, I used to have to pin it in so that it was shaped like this. But by keeping just the back side, the front side, and starting around there, it makes it so much easier because I've got this loose end to float. Oops. And the belly lined up kind of nicely. All right, now time to see how this worked out. I'm going to go ahead and move my needle so I don't stab myself again and again and again. What I use, let's see if I can get this whole thing on here. It's polyfill. Yes, I know that was upside down. Let's try that again. Polyfill. Nothing super major. There are some very nice materials that you can get, but this is something I can find at craft stores, and it is very soft. It allows me to stuff this without having to worry about bougie pricing on my material. All right, let's see. I wish I knew what the invite thing was. I know that I saw a goal for that on the live store feed information, but I don't really know what that means at all. Somebody did just co-host for a minute and then left. They didn't say anything, so I'm not sure if maybe I was disappointing or just not what they were looking for. All right, so when I stuff the body, I will do the legs first. As soft and as easily as this material does come apart, this filling material does, these tiny little hole spots for the feet, they don't break apart. The invite thing lets other people join the live and talk. Oh, okay. That's interesting. I suppose it would make a big difference if there's a couple of us that are making different things, maybe like a race, or both trying to make the same thing in different ways in our own styles. That could be fun to watch. All right, so make sure I've got all 4 legs filled up. What happens if I were to try and fill this all at once and then spread it out to the feet, it would not separate. This would clump together, and as I'm trying to get this to move by itself, it wouldn't fill in the tiny little spots. Normally, I also like to leave my little filling hole bigger, but I guess the needle kind of got away from me, and it's not quite as much space as I usually have. When it's a little bit bigger, it's easier to fill, but when it's smaller, it's easier to close. All right. Again, this is me going through the steps of turning a mouse into a bunny. Yeah, I've seen enough to suggest that scammers and trolls easily pop up. Worst case scenario, if I'm lucky and I get a troll, people will see them as a troll, and then it won't be worth their time because it's not like they're going to hurt my feelings. But it also might be good to meet new people that are doing all kinds of different things together. But you're right. I definitely want to pay attention to who it is and be ready to kick him out. I hope that my process for making the tail is not disappointing. It's relatively simple. I think it's pretty creative. Maybe I should stop bad talking myself, you know? I think it's fun. I use it to make the palms. And it allows me to use any color that I've got in this minky material, which is great because then I can make it match what I'm making. And I don't have to worry about buying little individual palms that size and being limited in both material, which is usually pretty weak, and colors. So being able to use the scraps that I have is also a plus. I don't know how much you can see, but see that pile right there? That's all my scraps. I don't just throw things away, probably because I'm a little bit of a hoarder, but also because I've spent so much time doing so many different types of art. I was doing some oil paintings, and when I was making the frames for them, I just had the corners left over. I just saved them. I was like, okay, I'm going to use this eventually for something. Oh, something's popping up. Oh, it's asking if I'm still here. Got to line up a puzzle piece. Okay, there we go. All right, let's see. A little bit of thread. I appreciate that. Let's see. What do you got here? Have you experimented any more with the mouse tattoos like you did on the Type O negative one? Not literally with the mice. Yeah, I always reuse it. Now, I've done that kind of thing with different animals. So I've like jack-o'-lanterns. I did the jack-o'-lantern eyes using that same method. I made these monstrous jack-o'-lanterns with tentacle tails. I thought about dropping the scraps in too. I haven't done it yet, but that's just because most of what I'm doing is so small that I think that it would make a difference. But when I make my next big pieces, I'm going to use some of like really small scraps where I want it to be just a little bit heftier. I'm going to go ahead and cut that little bit of excess thread off. Now, if you didn't see, what I did was I fed my needle through, and then when I came back in, I put it between the strands, basically making a nice little knot. And I do that because this needle is actually pretty thick. So what winds up happening is when I pull it through, even if I pull it through stitches, it winds up pulling the whole knot through. This way I can secure it and I can start my closing stitch, which my understanding is that this is called a ladder stitch. I literally put one end in, and then as it comes back out, pull it tight, and then I go directly across. This gives me a nice, simple little closing stitch that when I do it correctly, it's very difficult to see. If you ever get a plush, you'll see on the back there'll be like a little zigzag on there on the back of it. A lot of times that's going to be where it was closed off. And I do my best to make it so you can't quite as easily see where I've closed my stitches. Hey, perfect. See, since I haven't memorize like all these technical details, I do my best to give the right information. So I'm glad that I had that right on ladder stitch. It's such a simple little thing, right? The adding, basically all I did was this kind of stitching that I'm doing right now on another piece of material so that I didn't have to embroider it, because the embroidery on these gets very difficult with that fuzz. So just adding another colored material to give it a tattoo worked out great. And I was so happy that worked out. Thank you so much. I believe you are the one who sent me the pumpkin one, right? And if so, I will definitely keep that in mind. And when I need some help, I like to reach out as best I can, because I don't even know the words to search for things. They say AI help has been helpful. The AI search has been helpful, but I don't trust it, so I don't usually ask it too many questions. All right, now I'm just going to go ahead and close this up. Just a very simple little knot by tying it around my needle. Pull that tight. And then feed this back in through where that knot is, and out the body. Pull it nice and tight. Now what I like to do, as you can see, the stitch is kind of hard to see. It's not much different than where the machine stitched. But I will come through and pull my fuzz out. And I'll do that all the way across, even where the machine stitch was. And it just cleans it up nicely. Sometimes it's a little bit better than others. Sometimes I really got to drag to get the fuzz out. But I feel like that little bit of extra effort makes a lot of difference. And then I'll do it here. You can see where the stitch is at right now. Yeah, the AI searches, I agree. I despise it used for art. I have seen the uses for it that would be great, but that's not going to be what happens. And slowly it's becoming one of those things that's just going to be apocalyptic in different ways. Not even counting the water part, but yes, definitely counting the water part. All right, see, when I clean that out, makes it almost impossible to see where the stitch was. Childhood teddy bear next to me that has a massive hole. Hey, the way that I stitched that up is exactly how you would fix this. The way that you can fix your teddy bear that exact same way. And here's what I'm going to do. Since you are watching right now, I'm going to roughly show you just real quickly what I mean. Here, I've got a little piece of extra material. I'm going to cut a hole in the back of it. All right. So you've got this hole, right? All right. So what you'll do is take from the inside, you'll reach in through the hole and put your needle at the farthest end. Now, if it's a round hole, you'll just pick a point. I'm using it at the seam. Feed your needle in and then right back out where you came out at. And here's why you're going to do that. When you feed this back out, here's the hole. You're going to put your needle between your two pieces of thread. Just like that. What's going to happen is when you pull that tight, you now have a very simple starting knot. Okay? Now, what he's talking about with the second piece of fabric, you're going to do pretty much the exact same thing you're doing here. So you can use like a patch over it. You can use a patch on the inside of the hole. But as an example, all the stitches are going to be really close to the same. Now you've got it coming out. You're just going to go back and forth directly across from the other side, in and then out again. And then you go across your hole. See if I can, across your hole. And then once again, in and then out. You're going to keep it close to the edge, but only as close as you can, because if the material might be really weak. And you're going to keep doing that. And what we're going to do is we're going to just make this real quick. See how even the white fur is not showing up, or white thread's not showing up? On your last stitch, you'll go in. Oh, let me go ahead and get one more stitch real quick. You'll go in and then out, but don't pull it all the way through. You want to make this as close as you can. And you're going to take your thread and wrap it around the needle. Pull that out, pull it tight. See, now we've got that closed up. You've got this end of your needle. You're going to feed that right back in. And you're just going to pull it out at some random point of your bear. Pull that tight, and there you go. There are other things you can do. You can use that same stitch if you were to put this over, like a patch over that hole. But essentially, it's all pretty much going to work the same way. Let's see, how to start or finish it the first time. Well, I hope that actually helped this time. And if not, send me a message. Send me a message directly on this account. You can ask me a question. I'm happy to help. There's lots of people out there who do a lot of little tutorials and stuff like that. So while I am just a beginner, you might find a lot of great, much more detailed instructions out there. I don't know anybody off the top of my head but I can definitely help you try and find answers. For me, what I would do is I would actually find a material that I really like and sew it on like a patch. Like part of me thinks it would be even more fun to have my old teddy bear with battle scars and patches and like surgically graft on an arm from a different plush. And over time, he's still the same bear, but it's kind of like what the ship of Theseus, where eventually you have to wonder, is it still the same bear? I know that was kind of goofy of a concept, but it still applies, and it sounds so fun to think of it that way. Oh, 3 new messages. Okay. Yeah, ladder stitch tutorials will be helpful. And I'll bet if you just typed in plush mending or mending my teddy bear, you'll probably find a lot of other things. But now that you know that it's possible, you know some ideas on what to look for. So that's got to be a little bit of something of a relief. All right, that was tight enough to hold. So I'm going to do just a few stitches to make the bottom of this jaw a little bit more angular. Since we are doing a bunny, I figured this will be a good option. All right. I think that's got my bunny head a little bit better. I'm going to tie this off just in case something happens. Feed back in and start right here. Now, for the mouse even, the back of this head is a little bit too big. And I did that because when I had it super small, it just would not come together right. Like the ears would constantly get missing. Well, if I do it this way, I can always tuck in the excess. This allows me to control the shape while also making sure that the rest of it sews together nicely. That's awesome. I had a pair of shorts that I didn't even do that with. They were just coming apart. Like the leg came off. It was so old that I just wore it bundled at my feet. Some people really hated me wearing that because I had to wear special nice underwear so that weren't looking at my ugly underwear butt. All right, so all I'm doing is stitching up the back here, and I'm changing the shape of the back piece as I go by tucking it in just a little bit. Like I said, it's easier to have something that you can hand fix than something you can't machine sew. And the way that it was working out, I just couldn't machine sew it. I couldn't put the back of the head on. I couldn't put the ears on even. More often than not, they would just miss completely because it was such a small amount of material. So I adapted. I just changed the size of that circle to make it look just a little bit better. All right, now I'm back stitching a couple more. Anybody that's wondering, this is the same stitch that I used to close up the back of the body. Oops, keep hitting my camera. All right, now I'm going to pull my fuzz out. Try and do that on camera. Lots of little bits of fuzz. Now this happens whenever I machine sew or hand stitch. The good news is the bottom side will not be visible once I put the head on. So I don't have to worry too much about the awkward mounts, but I still try and pull as much of it through as I can, because I still do want it to look nice at all angles. All right, got my pulled through. All right. Normally I would use this same stitch to attach it to the head, but I don't have quite enough thread. So I'll just start a new one. I agree. And every now and then it'll be funny because you'll find that other people are doing it and it's become trendy. If I had an embroidery machine, I would make custom patches and just stick that on everything. Drawings and all kinds of sorts of different things on there. Now that I know how to do this, depending on what I'm making, I could always just, instead of using a patch, use a tiny little plush to hold it together. Hey, 10K likes. That's awesome. Even if these people are just stopping by and saying hello just so briefly with a like, I appreciate that. Now, I am saving a list of what to do next time on live. I've had somebody suggest that they want to see a pumpkin mouse, which may turn into deciding that they want to see a pumpkin bat or mount or rabbit. You know, that's totally fine. I want to do some Pokemon stuff. Yes, I am a Pokemon dork as well. Not so hardcore as some people, but my son is starting to get into Pokemon. So I think it'd be fun to make my own versions of them, slightly derpy plush versions of Pokemon. I've been trying to experimenting to figure out the best way to put designs on patches. Embroidery would be great. Now, on my account, I have this post where I made a mouse, and somebody requested it to be a Type O negative mouse, as in the band. I was originally going to make a Sculpey button and put it on there, but then I had this idea. I basically just take the same material here, which is very fuzzy, and I cut my design out, and I do roughly the same type of stitch that I'm doing right now, and attach it. I've done the same thing to make eyes, make Ahigo eyes. Yes, I know I said Ahigo eyes. It sounds stupid, very weeby, but it was fun and funny because I made a Dodec Ahigon. And I'm telling you, it was not for everybody, but I'm goofy. But either way, you can do the same thing with making patches. You take this soft, fuzzy material, you cut out designs and patterns, and you attach that to a flat material. And voila, you'll have your own custom plush patches. I've done it for sigils and symbols and words on my snakes. So if you look and see that I've got some plush snakes on there, I've done the same thing there. There's other intricate ways of sewing it as well, which maybe one day I'll show my method of doing that because I don't like applique. I don't do applique because it's got that circle of stitching, which feels less soft. And when I cut everything and sew it into a certain shape, I get the benefit of a continuous minky material feel. All right, let me go ahead and pull this tight without stabbing myself. Close this off. Oh, I think this is actually going to work, guys. I got my knot tied. Let me make sure that I've got both strings pulled through. Oh no, I got a loose string. Got a loose string here. I think I can fix it. I just got to isolate the two strings so I can pull one individually. Okay, that's not it. There we go. Excellent. Feed this back through the body. Also, trying not to stab myself. Pull tight. Cut. I think that's going to work. That looks like a bunny, right? I mean, I don't need to put like a big, thick back leg on there, do I? Changing the shape of the head a little bit, giving it the big ears. They're not floppy, but that's because they're so small. I could put a little bit of weight in there. But yeah, this is a bunny, right? Yeah. So I've got the mouse and the bunny. And they look distinct enough because of the shape of the head. At least I think they do. And then I can always change the position of the ears. Awesome. I'm glad you agree. All right, now time to do some tail magic. All right, so as simple as this is just a scrap piece. I am going to cut a circle. Doesn't need to be perfect. Doesn't need to. You can make it as big or as small as you want. I've got a circle. Hey, Ruby. I hope you're still liking that plush. I think I sent you your plush. All right, now I'm going to start like I've done before, feeding this through, going between my threads. Oops, I forgot to tie my knot. Anybody curious, once you get your 2 threads through, when you feed it through your needle, what you do is you pinch, wrap it around your finger, and then back into the pinch, and you just roll it off your finger. And when you do, you pull it tight. Very simple little knot. Yes, you can do any other number of things to do that as well. But that makes it the easiest for me. Between here. Now I'm going to feed through around the edge. It's kind of like those little coin purses that you can get where the strand of leather just goes around the top to cinch it closed. I am doing essentially the same thing right here. I'll go as far as I can get it. I'm not worried about pulling it tight yet. Close to the edge, just a few quick stitches, in, out, in, out, in, out. Pull tight. Now, you can make this as big as you want or as small as you want. Now, the downside is if you make it too big, you may have to put some fluff on the inside of it. You may have to do some extra stitching to make it look right. But that's not like the worst thing in the world. Okay, I'm going to end with an out. Pull it tight, a little palm. Now, just to make sure, what I will next do is see how it's got the opening here. Make sure it's pulled nice and tight, and I will go across and do pretty much the same ladder closing stitch once again. And I'll do that 2 or 3 times, just enough to make sure it stays. I'll go ahead and decline. And then this one I will go ahead and tie off. And little palm tail. Now, put that on the butt. Make sure that I get this, the back side done on here. Go put it a little bit high. Now, I want to make sure that I get the inside, the part that the opening was on, towards the butt. Usually I do this for hats or something like that on a clown mouse. Oh, it looks like I may not have stitched all the way closed on my booty there. Okay. I don't know who you are. I will work on that another time. I'm not even sure how much longer I'm going to be on here. Now, there's a part of me that always worries that telling people what I'm doing is kind of like giving away the magic secret, giving away the magic trick. But I also don't like the idea of hoarding knowledge. I was self-taught, and I think that if I can help somebody else learn things, it might not take them as long. All right, so let's see here. What do we got? Put that away. And a little bunny tail. Yes, I definitely can. I'll drag my camera over there. I've got a whole bunch of other stuff. All right, little bunny tail. And I think the next one I need to actually add whiskers. I just recently started adding whiskers, but because I don't always think about it, this would have been a great one to add a whisker to. And if you didn't know, this can also be worn. I think that turned out pretty decently. It looks like you guys like it as well. Awesome. Now the whiskers have to be done before I close it up. I could always unstitch it and start over on it. So if you are super interested in seeing whiskers on here, let me know. But next time I will make sure and add whiskers to it. Now this is a hair clip, but I've also got different types of clothespins. Try and get that out. These have little safety pins on them. And because of that, you can feed that through the loop and wear it on your clothes. Put it on your shoulder as you go for a ride. Now, these are not super heavy. They weigh like less than an ounce, but I do know that wearing something in your hair, no matter how heavy it is or how light it is, can eventually give you a headache. So that's another reason why I don't just have it the option of doing this. And when you buy from me, I send you one of the different types of hair clips that I have and clothespins. So let me show you real quick. Stay standing. You can do it. Oh, that bunny tail is making it hard to stay standing. There we go. So I also have these gator type clips and these clutch pins. So when you order from me, I make sure that you have an option on how you want to wear it. I personally think that versatility is very important. A little bit higher up, that's not a bad idea. Like put it like a little closer to here. Let's see, could you put a tiny magnet in the belly band? And so I definitely could. If I were building this and I were to put a magnet in there, I could do something like that. But you could also just put one in there temporarily, depending on the circumstances. I am definitely open to the idea of making this band a little bit bigger and then feeding it in, then closing it up. There's a lot of little things that might need to be done to adjust for that. But there's also those teeny tiny, like extra strong magnets that might work perfectly. I have also wanted to put like magnets in the arms so that they click and hold hands, but it has to be those tiny little magnets. My Etsy is actually on Versatile Deviant. It is the same name. I thought about putting magnets in the mice in the mouth so that they kiss, but I have to have enough interest to buy those kinds of magnets. Vel, my Etsy is the Versatile Deviant. It is the same name. I do have it posted in a couple places, and when I post this bunny, I will make sure I put the Etsy on there as well. What I'm going to go ahead and do right now is I'm going to wander over across my horribly dirty house to my studio. This has bad lighting. I apologize. The color in here is not great. I haven't painted in here. So basically the lighting has not been so necessary yet. I've got my stuff for random projects. I've got a whole bunch of leather stuff, my leather tools. I've got painting and woodwork. I've got all kinds of stuff. I've even got a figure for sewing, and I can make buttons. But here is my Minky material. This Minky, this blue, is actually a very thin fuzz, so I haven't used it the same yet. Yes, this orange is fantastic. I've used it to make pumpkins before. I've got two different types of pink, which are hard to tell unless you put them right next to each other. I've got a fuchsia and a hot pink. Again, this is the inside. I'm going to go ahead and get another light real quick so you can actually see proper colors. Let's see. If I turn this off and then turn this off, you might actually be able to see what colors these are. Nope, doesn't make that big of a difference. But there are two different pinks. One is a hot pink and one is a fuchsia. I've got a lilac purple, dark green, and a neon green. This is the purple on a black bunny. I have made a busty bunny. This star material is soft. It is very close to minky, but it doesn't have the same fur on it. I have gray and dark gray. Let's see if I can make this look clearer. I have a teal, red. This is the dark green next to the teal. And I have a minty green in here somewhere. I got to find. There it is. So I have a lot of different options. And then here is some of my Halloween material. So you like the orange for the pumpkin mouse. These are what I would use on the insides. Now, there are a lot of different things. I've even lined up these on the belly so that the bat still shows up much like the pattern on the bunny. I have spiderweb stuff. Yes, my busty bunny. I love the busty bunny. It was made for somebody. They were going to order multiple of those, but I learned it took more work to do. And I haven't heard back, but I don't think they're going to wind up ordering as many as they wanted. Yes, Halloween material with... So which Halloween material would you like? I've got pumpkins, trick or treats. Now these are kind of small, so what winds up happening is these actually still work out. The web material here would work as well. Yeah, the swirly space. Oh, I've got like a few different space ones too. And then I've also got a fuzzy space. Yep, here it is. This is that minky material. So I've got a lot of options there. And let's see, I don't think I have any other particularly Halloween ones. I do have like goth kind of colors. The swirly space here. Actually, I think that this isn't the one that sparkles. I have one similar that sparkles. Stars. Yes, galaxy print is one of my favorites. That's why I've got so many different galaxy prints. What's cool is this one with the moths actually glows in the dark. Mm-hmm. Let's see. I'm trying to look and see if I missed any messages here. And let's see. Oh, I've also got these. I really like these materials. They kind of remind me of porcelain. Some swirlies, some glow. This stuff has a metallic look to it and glittery. The first pumpkins or the spider webs. So these pumpkins or the spider web. Do you have a preference? Because I kind of like the spider web. The bats that I have spiderweb it is. I think we both kind of agree. And to show you the size of the bat compared to a mouse, and then I have possums. And these have an articulated tail, so they will actually hang on to stuff. Now, I've recently started adding a loop to the back of the bats, but I don't have anything to wear them with in hair yet. But if someone was interested, I would definitely figure that out. Let's see, I don't think I have any rats with me right now, but I do have a snail. So I make snails. So you want a smaller bat along about that size? Because I definitely could. And if I did, what I could probably do is a few things to where you can either wear it so it faces out or so it looks like it's hugging your head. I have a plush or a head over here. So if I made a smaller bat, I can make it so that it hugs your head facing, or I can make it so that you wear it sticking out. Oh, so far my day's been going okay. I'm having a decent live, which is a little bit of fun interacting with people here. Let's see. Oh, I would love to do more OC characters. I've done a few. I don't have any here, but on my page I've got a couple. So these grays, plus depending on what kind of look you're looking for, I've got the light gray and the dark gray. The downside is the color in my studio is all yellow light. So I can't quite show how well they are. I'm sorry, Emoji Sky. I meant to follow up with, I'm having a decent live. I'm having a lot of fun. I hope you're doing well too. I'm so sorry. That was rude of me. I apologize. And yes, definitely send me pictures. I've made a few for fursona characters. I can send you examples whenever we get done. I'll send you the links to those videos. So that gives me a lot of options here. I think that the orange with that orange stuff is going to look great. Okay. Oh, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and show you what my original use for this green mouse was. One moment. Oh, that's got to be charged. So the person who ordered this just liked the colors. These are the colors that they picked, but they also work at Lowe's and they want to make sure they can wear this at work. So they requested him to have a unhinged vest. So I made him a haphazard. I'm here because I got to be, I work, I'm a mouse. Obviously, I'm not going to get a professionally made Lowe's jacket. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. And the good thing is that since they can take this off, it doesn't always have to be a work mouse. And today we made this bunny. My first teeny tiny little bunny. And revolutionary. So many options. I've had people tell me I should put magnets in the top of the head so that I can put different types of hats on them. But I really want to avoid magnets where I can, for the most part. Just kind of balance it out. It's not made to be something that'll last forever. It's what I imagined a mouse would make if they were hired on at Lowe's, or if they just got stuck in the building and wanted to pretend like they worked there. Yes, the Galaxy mouse could have I could make him a Galaxy, or your pumpkin mouse can have a Galaxy vest for costumes. But my idea sometimes, and you'll see this in my stickers as well, when I make things for the mice, I like to think of them as what they would use at their size. So I made a wizard mouse, and for his stickers, his wand was a Q-tip. And then I made a fairy mouse, and her wand was a paperclip. And a necromancer mouse, and for them, it was the arm of a mantis. So I just like to have different things that also match up with what their size actually is. All right. I've got a couple more mice I've got to make for some orders. I've got everything cut out. I probably won't work on that right now. What I'm going to go ahead and do is get myself set up to go pick up my son. I really appreciate you guys stopping by and helping me with this. The ideas that you gave me about using the scalpel, talking about how I can make things, change the shape of the ears, and helping me with your opinions. Definitely going to move the tail up more when I do the next one. And I'm going to start making a few bunnies to kind of go along on my page to see what people think. But if you guys are interested, feel free to order. I can make you custom versions of anything. I am putting everything on sale right now. So 20% off. You can get yourself a plush mouse of your own personal character. And I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you ever so much. Send me that picture, Grumpy. I'll send you some sketches if we need to, and we'll figure out all the details. Oh, wow. I didn't realize my phone was about to die. Well, thank you so very much. I've got to go. I hope to see you guys again next time. Bye.